Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. And today, I'm back. You may have seen me post earlier this week that I was headed off to Malmo, Sweden to do various secretive stuff and things. Before you ask, no, I cannot talk about the trip really at all, but I look forward to when I can, whenever that may be. What that means, though, is that I was not here to jump into the finale that dropped this week in-game, so my apologies for no streams or other coverage on it. Now that I'm back, though, I've had a chance to play through the mission both on the standard difficulties and on Master, and per usual, I just wanted to break it down and give some of my thoughts. That is, if there's anyone who cares to still hear them nearly a week later. But if you're here and you're watching this, I appreciate you. Thank you for the continued support and for tuning in. If you enjoy this one and you want to stay tuned for future updates and content on the Division 2, for which I will be around for, then be sure to subscribe. A huge shout out and thank you as always goes out to our channel members. You guys keep this channel going, simply put, which I could not appreciate more. Thank you. If it wasn't clear already, this video will contain full spoilers for the Year Season 3 Mutiny Finale Climax mission. And so, without further ado, let's get to it. So, as per usual, I figured we would discuss the finale mission itself before getting into the more story and lore implications. This one, as most of us predicted, took place at the Ironworks Foundry. This is the old raid location for the Iron Horse raid, so that was a good bit of fun. And beyond it just being a raid location, which was cool, they did also do the usual shakeups with us running the mission backwards. There were a select few new pathways that they created. That's always very refreshing. One thing that I specifically appreciated here, though, was the recolor and environmental refresh that they did. For instance, this first combat arena here is actually the final Iron Horse Train in Morozova boss fight room from the raid. And if you've played the raid, you'll know that in there, this is presented as like this orangish red, almost desert-like location. But when you arrive here, the color scheme is completely redone. It is much greener and cooler. A lot of vegetation has reclaimed the area. I honestly had to do a double take to see if I was really in the same spot. And the same goes for the furnace room, which is that first boss fight room. In the raid, this is a very hot and orange location while the furnace was active, but here it starts as very dark and blue since we turned it off in the raid. And so I think those are just good examples of how small changes can really shift the tone of a location by quite a bit. Mechanics wise, I was really pleased to see many of the raid mechanics reused and repurposed for this, as we suspected they might. You know, first having to dodge the Avenger cannon in the courtyard, but then using it to blow up the munitions train. You get to hunt down the boxes and pipes during the first boss fight. Then the water cannons come big into play at the very end. All very cool. Speaking mechanically and from a gameplay perspective, I did have one main disappointment here, and that was how little the defectors and uprising really showed up or was utilized. I think in that first encounter, you see, what, one defector present fighting alongside you, and I had hoped that that was like a soft introduction to the fact that they would be present throughout the mission. I don't think I recall seeing a single one after that. Maybe I'm forgetting, and there were one or two. Overall, I was hoping it would really feel as though we were fighting alongside the Resistance, and I just didn't get that from this. I don't know if that was perhaps a coding challenge, maybe it was a limitation of old gen consoles, who knows. All I'm saying is that it would have been cool to see, made things a bit more immersive. Aside from that one point, though, overall, this is a very fun mission, a great reuse of the raid location, decent bosses, the whole 9 yards. I did want to let you know, in case you have not run the mission yet or have had troubles in doing so, the devs have highlighted a bug on Trello, which makes it so that the molten lava doesn't always correctly show up in the 4 quadrants of the room during the final fight. This definitely tripped up my group once or twice, so I just wanted to let you know. Let's then take a moment to discuss the master version of this mission. This is the part of each finale that I look the most forward to, right? It offers the highest challenge, the most intricate mechanics, usually the biggest secrets, and this one definitely didn't disappoint. I haven't exactly ranked it yet, but I would say it absolutely makes it in my top 3 for the 5 master missions that we've now gotten. Combat-wise, as expected, the enemies are much tankier and more lethal. This one didn't seem quite as enemy-dense as I remember last season's mission being, but it's definitely still a challenge. We see deepened and enhanced mechanics during the furnace phase, for example, having to find more switches and unlock more of the doors. But then we get essentially a completely different fire mechanic during the final boss fight. That was probably my favorite change from the standard difficulties to master. It was very reminiscent of like an epic final boss fight that we had in the very first master mission back with Theo and the hyenas. The only problem that I had with it, and it was probably my biggest master gripe, is that the player-facing information that the game gives you was, in my opinion, far too restricted to get a grasp on what was actually going on. Now, that's not to say that in content like this, I think that mechanical information has to be spoon-fed to the player. In fact, quite the opposite. But during that fight, when the boss gets the fire armor and maybe you miss one of the water cannons and you're just shooting endlessly and not much is changing, I had to go look up Reddit posts to see if we had bugged out the fight or not, and I just think that's unfortunate. It would have been a bit more fun to have a smoother flow, to continuously use the water cannons maybe in an alternating pattern or something to douse him and damage him. Overall, though, it was still good fun. On top of this all, of course, we have to talk about the secret hunter of the mission. I really like the fact that this was a secret and optional component to the mission, right? It's not just a guaranteed fight like we had back in the Kelso Master mission. If you didn't know or have not done this yet, you need to kill Sergeant Gunner, I think that's his name, while he watches you during the first combat arena, and that way he then doesn't spawn in during the usual furnace part of the mission. Instead, the hunter replaces him. Now, the only way that I've seen people figure this out so far, and this is what our group did too, is that if you run the turmoil knee pads and then have a player using a determined one-shot sniper build camp the spawn door below him, when you kill the enemies that run out of there, they then are close enough to share the damage with him, and it takes him out. That seems like a bit of a weird and cheesy approach, although it works. According to Pale from the dev team though, this seems to not actually be the main or intended way to do this. I'm not sure what that intended way may be, but that's an interesting thing to note. Once you do this correctly though, you take out the boss, you get to the furnace, the hunter will spawn in with a 3-minute timer. And again, this just kind of gives flashbacks of the Schaefer manhunts way back in the day, where this is like a variant of the mission flow, because otherwise standard enemies and the boss are here. So I really like that. But you do the fight, you take out the hunter, it rewards you with the Ruin mask here. Now this is sick. It is like a half broken hunter mask. It also changes your character's appearance below to give you scars and this kind of glassy eye look. Really nice details on this thing, and these are the exact kinds of secrets and rewards that I like to see included in these missions. Alright, finally let us discuss the lore and story of the finale. Honestly, there's not that much to it. We had already discussed how this season overall has been pretty light on lore. Really the only big setup was this Ironworks assault operation and the assassination plot on Anderson. So we got here, we fought, and we took him out. That's right, Anderson is finally dead. Throughout the mission, Manny kept insisting that he be brought in alive and face justice. Lieutenant Adkins, who is the coordinator for the defectors, seemed to be willing, but I think behind the scenes we all knew what needed to happen. And by the time we reached the end, we get a cutscene of the defectors storming in on him. He takes out 2 of them somehow. That seemed a little bit silly, but the last one is able to approach and throw him straight out the window. And if you had any doubt remaining that he was potentially still alive, you can approach and see his body afterwards. As far as this mission's events though, that is the big revelation. Anderson is dead at last. Once you walk outside and complete the mission, you do get one last cutscene that sort of sets up year 8 and where the story is going next. Maybe. It mostly highlights what happened this year, which namely is the faction leaders getting disposed of. I think this really though just kind of shows how light this year was narratively. That seems to just be a shift that the team has taken. At the end, it does highlight the Black Tusk and Sokolova and how she is now alone without the help of any of the other factions. Is that finally going to be the plot of year 8, right? Going after Sokolova, doing bunker raids with Barden's help? Maybe. I guess we'll see. But for now, the mutiny has won, and the True Sons leadership has been toppled. Well, there you have it, my friends. That is a breakdown for the Year 7 Season 3 finale, both mission and lore-wise. I had a good bit of fun with this one. It's not perfect, but I did really like the environmental changes. I thought Master was a good challenge. The Hunter puzzle and the reward for it were awesome. Let me know your thoughts on any and every aspect here. What did you think about the regular mission versus the Master version? What did you think about the Hunter? Any other mechanics that we run into? And also, where do you think the story goes from here? Where are we headed in year 8? That is just about going to wrap it up for me on this one, though. I appreciate you all very much for coming by and watching. But yeah, until I see you next, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And